Hi everyone, this is my video about what's wrong with Deadpool 2, and it's really simple. It's not funny. Or rather, it's rarely funny. The first movie, which I just watched a few days ago, like a 95% hit rate. This is up there with like Ghostbusters. Just every single joke works. So much so that I remember like the one joke that didn't work. Deadpool 2, however, inverts it. Like 5% of the jokes are funny. I actually stopped 10 minutes in and I was like, I have just heard a few dozen attempted jokes and I didn't laugh once. So Deadpool 2, luckily, is just called Deadpool 2. They didn't give it one of those stupid subtitles like Rise of Cable or some stupid shit like that. But if they did give it a subtitle, it should have been Sophomore Slump. Because this is what happens to like every band with their second album. They got their entire life to prepare for their first album, and then the second one is like just whatever they have 2 years later. First Deadpool movie comes out in 2016. Deadpool 2 comes out in 2018. The first Deadpool movie had a very strange history. They started developing it when Wolverine Origins was going to come out, and then when Wolverine Origins underperformed, they scrapped the Deadpool movie. The executives didn't understand it. And then everyone knows the story. They made some test footage. Again, the executives didn't get it. Most likely Ryan Reynolds leaked the test footage. Everyone loved it. And then they made it and it was a huge hit. $75 million budget, $782 million worldwide box office. Incredible. This one, they spent $50 million more to get $3 million more. The whole first hour of this is rough, and I will blame Ryan Reynolds entirely. Because while they were slowly developing the first Deadpool movie over like 7 years, when it was a huge success, apparently it went to Ryan's head and he decided it was all about him. He had a battle with Tim Miller, who had been shepherding this, who had created the test footage. So Tim Miller left. It was the same two writers. It was the Zombieland writers from the first Deadpool movie. But all of a sudden, Ryan Reynolds is also credited for the script, and he is who I am blaming for all of the terrible jokes. One of the points I made for the first movie is the hit rate on the comedy was extremely high, but also the very few jokes that didn't work, they didn't try to save the joke. They didn't capitalize on it. They didn't do a callback. They just kind of moved on. Whereas this one, oh my gosh. So they have this joke that Dopinder is like Kirsten Dunst from Interview with a Vampire, and Deadpool is like Tom Cruise. It's not funny the first time they say it. Then they do 2 more follow-ups, a callback to it a few minutes later, and then a callback to it like an hour later. And it was never funny. Even when they will get a real joke that actually works, like when Deadpool is fighting Cable, and Cable's like stabbing the shit out of him. Deadpool says, "You're really dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?" Then we get a reaction shot from Cable, and then we get a callback to a lame joke about dubstep from a few minutes earlier. And you can just really see Ryan Reynolds' ego all over this. It's like, oh, everyone loved Vanessa. Yeah, let's get rid of her. She's in like 4 minutes of the movie. So the first hour is basically a complete loss. But then when he recruits his version of X-Force, and then when he meets Cable, they start fighting and teaming up, then it actually gets pretty good. All the stuff with the X-Men, Colossus, Negasonic, and then they introduce Yukio, all that stuff works. But man, it's a rough first hour. The actual plot is quite good, and there is a really, really good scene with a convoy. But the scene with the convoy is just amazing. And that was after a really funny parachuting scene with X-Force, after a pretty good recruiting scene. I'm telling you, it's like an hour in when this movie gets good. It's got a great ending, but overall, you just feel Ryan Reynolds' stink. Like he's like, oh, I'm a writer too. Kind of, not really. And then there's just other things, like they replaced the director. It's now the uncredited director from the first John Wick movie. He also did Atomic Blonde and Bullet Train. The action in those 2 movies flows beautifully. But this one, it doesn't work. Like, even shots don't cut together with the next shot. There's one scene early on where Deadpool is on a roof. He jumps to another building like 60 feet over and like 5 stories down. He crashes through the window. It's a great superhero moment. He does like one forward roll and stands up. It's like, whoa, stop. The momentum he would have had running and jumping from another building, going over 60 feet and then down 5 stories. He would have burst through that window, rolled like a bowling ball all the way across the floor. It could have been a good scene where he knocks over like 5 bad guys. But then it's obviously cut to just a stuntman doing one roll so he can stand up without being dizzy. And like that is just constant. Almost all of the action scenes. Like shots just don't cut together well. Because the first one, they were storyboarding that motherfucker for like 5 years. So it is just polished. While this one is essentially rushed out. Cable is good. Yes, they changed his origin, but he's still Cable in his personality. Rewatching it, Domino was my favorite. Gail Simone wrote a Domino series a few years back. And it was literally issue 6 before she understood Domino's power. Which is just probability. It's just luck. And in the recruiting scene, they're talking about luck isn't really a superpower. It's not very visual. But then when they get Domino into action, it is the most visual, cinematic superpower imaginable. Some people were getting butthurt that they race swapped her, but they also inverted the color scheme. Instead of being a white woman with a black circle around her eye, she's a black woman with a white circle around her eye. This movie could have been really good, except for Ryan Reynolds. And he's still good, but he caused all of the problems. Butting heads with not just the director of the first movie, but the person who made it happen, used his effects studio to create that test footage. On his own dime, apparently. It was just such an unforced error. If you create a team and you have a 10x profit for a character that most normies hadn't heard of at the time, you just have the same team make the second one. You don't change up the roster. That's stupid. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.